In this video, I'm going to take you through changing a battery on a BMW 1 Series E87. So changing a battery on a car, a modern car, isn't quite like it used to be. In the past, it used to be the case that you would simply take the old battery out, plonk the new battery in, that you just go along to Halfords and buy off the shelf, connect it all back up, and everything will be fine. That's no longer the case. Cars are a lot more complicated now. They really are a lot more complicated now, but cars 15 years ago, because the car I'm going to show you how to do this on was even complicated then. The thing is though, the cars that are made now don't really need their batteries to be changed because the batteries generally last about 10 to 15 years, which my batteries just lasted. So it won't be such an issue that you're facing with those cars. But the cars of this generation, after 10, 15 years, they're going to need a new battery. I mean, it depends on how good a quality the original battery that was installed was, but they're going to need a new battery. So the BMW 1 Series, it comes with a, I think it's not an AGM battery, although and I'll show you this on the documentation that I've had, that it seems to make me think that it is an AGM battery, but I don't think it is because I don't think it warrants an AGM battery. So we're going to clarify that, see if it's an AGM battery. But actually it doesn't matter because it's not a start-stop technology. I don't need an AGM battery, so I'm not going to replace it with an AGM battery. I'm just going to replace it with a standard lead acid battery. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to show you what tools you need. Then I'm going to take you through the very simple process of finding the battery, opening up the compartment, getting the old battery out, putting the new battery in, and then connecting it up as well. In addition to all this, I'm going to take you through the documentation on ISTA. So it's a bit old school, but you'll be able to sort of read this for yourself in your own time as I scroll through it, and it gives them background to the actual battery technology itself, and also talks about how you actually supposed to change the batteries. I'm also going to then show you how to go in and do that service function on programming the car to tell it it's got a new battery and what type of battery it is. I've got a battery that's basically the same as what was in there, but I'll show you how to go through that. So this is a do-it-yourself video. Will save you a bit of money, and it will give you some assurance that it's been done properly, because the last thing you want to do, believe me, is pay £100 out for a battery, go and take it somewhere to get fitted, or pay somebody to put it in, and then not actually code the car correctly. A proper garage should be able to do it. You don't necessarily need the BMW software and hardware to do it. You can do it with a garage system that will be perfectly good for multiple cars, and it allows you to do that and program it. But I'm going to be using the BMW ISTA system. So without further ado, let's get on with it. If you're liking this video so far, please do subscribe to my channel. Okay, so here's some of the tools you're going to need to do this job. Nothing too extravagant. Some small flathead screwdrivers, a Phillips head screwdriver. I used a number 2 Phillips head. The small flathead screwdrivers were actually for sort of picking bits of trim off. These red levers are good for levering off bits of trim, not damaging it. Those you might have to buy specifically for this job if you don't have them. 13mm socket, not a deep socket, just a normal one, and a 10mm as well, and a small ratchet and extension bar. So let's go into ISTA and see what information they've got there on the battery. And this is talking about an AGM battery, and I'm not sure if the car's actually got an AGM battery because it's not stop-start technology. I mean, this is all very interesting, all about AGM batteries. You can see that, you can read this, pause it, read through it at your leisure. You can see that they last a lot longer than the standard flooded battery, which is what I'm going to be putting in. As you can see, there's lots of information here about how AGM batteries work. All glass matte, that's what AGM battery stands for. Here's the table with all the explanation of what's in this diagram here. So you can see an AGM stripped down. But yeah, they're a lot more expensive, a lot heavier as well. And the important thing about them, is that they have a different charging cycle, so you have to tell the car if you're putting in an AGM battery or not. You can see here it says don't charge an AGM battery with rapid charge. That's an important thing to be aware of. And AGM batteries are generally not kept in the engine compartment. I mean, this battery's in the boot, but I just don't believe it to be an AGM battery. Just simply because of the type of car. It's not a stop-start car. So I think this could be a problem with ISTA. It thinks that I've got an AGM battery, but I haven't. Anyway, we shall see. So yeah, that's the information on the AGM battery within ISTA. There's a whole process here about removing and installing the battery. Some notes on power supply. Isolating the battery. So you need to use the correct supply, so the correct rated battery, which is what's recorded on the CAS, the car access system. It does have an intelligent battery sensor. You'll see that when we get into replacing the battery. And here it talks about actually having to register the battery, which is what we'll do at the end. I think what the IBS does is it registers, or it recognises how much power the battery is putting out. And it, as I say, adjusts the charging cycle for it. And on some of the more advanced BMWs, will get a notification that the battery's on its way out. So these are the removing and installing instructions. Pretty straightforward, so it seems. Some torques here, which we can look up. There's about 15 Newton meters. I mean, it's all fair stuff, but we'll get that right anyway. Okay, so it's running a test now. What you'll find when you run a test when you're doing a battery is you'll probably get a number of faults that have kicked up, because what happens is there's not enough charge going around the, well, this is my experience anyway, not enough charge going around the bus system, so it throws up lots of faults about sensors being haywire and on their way out. So yes, that's what you can see here, lots around the diesel ECU there. So what I do is I delete all of these fault codes in each of the modules individually. You can see me doing that now in QuickTime, and then do the test again. There you go. It's important to do this test beforehand and clear them out so that you can see what faults are actually there lingering in the background, as opposed to the ones being, and these are the two that I've got, the A sensor, that's pretty common, and the auxiliary pump water pump sensor, that's another very common fault. Auxiliary water pump is what pumps the water around your heating system after you've stopped the car. So that's that rest button. Here's the battery. You can see it's got the magic eye there, but as ever I don't believe it to be an AGM battery. First thing you need to do is take all the load line and then get this piece of trim off as well, which is just a case of undoing these bolts and flicking it off with a screwdriver. Getting it, mine's pretty beat up anyway, so I'm not too precious about it. So I just managed to sort of pull that off fairly easily, and that allows you to get into the battery compartment itself. Take off this strap that kind of sits over the top of the battery. There's an interesting point here that you have to follow. You just undo the earth lead first. It's easier to undo in terms of isolating the battery. And that's me removing the cable for the IBS there. You just flick these covers up for the nuts, take off the housing for the IBS, which is a little kind of catch that you have to flick underneath the bottom of. That took me a while to work out, but that's how that's removed. And then these are all the other power cables going into the battery that you just have to remove from this housing so that you can take it off the battery itself. So it's got that metal clip that we're going to get around and take off. My nuts are pretty straightforward to take off. Got the earth cable undone. You shouldn't get any sparking or any noises from the car kind of getting a bit of charge going through it and then not getting charge going through it. Now these, you see that I've got there, those metal clips, you just have to sort of lever off the edge of the battery. So take everything off. Now you've got that, and remove the vent as well. Don't forget to do that, and don't forget to put that on when you do it. This screw is what houses the battery, or kind of keeps the battery in place. So you undo that with a Phillips screwdriver. Pretty straightforward. These are the two batteries put side by side. Exactly the same. Just check your dimensions. Make sure you do that before you buy it. Also put the date, fill in the fitting date on there, and then make sure it fits nice and snugly in there. You haven't got anything sort of in the way. I gave my compartment a good clean out with the vacuum cleaner. Now this is an important bit. That little washer could have fallen off, and that basically was what holds that together, so that when you put it down there, that thing doesn't just fall off into the hole. So you need to make sure you got that washer back on that little catch there, and then screw it back up with a screwdriver just so it doesn't move around and it's nice and snug. Now attach the positive first. This is me going through it, so there you go, that's the actual first bit going on there, tightened up to 15 newton meters, and then there you go. This is the sort of junction box going onto the battery. Make sure that those clips sort of fold around. That's me putting the vent on, so put the vent on before you do the first bit. Make sure those clips go around the edge, the sort of rim of the battery to begin with. Make sure you get your IBS cable back on. Feed your nuts on and then tighten them up. And that's the IBS getting plugged back in, and then do the earth cable. You shouldn't get any sparks. I did mine the wrong way around, which in hindsight was a bit silly. And then you just simply put this strap back over the top of it and screw that down. I did that up sort of finger tight. Pretty straightforward. Just checking one last time that it wasn't round. Let's give it another little tweak. The cables are going to get caught. Now you've got to register the battery. So you go into the service functions, body, voltage supply, battery. Register battery replacement. Here's some light reading on registering the battery. Make sure you've got iron exactly the same in terms of capacity. So 90 amp hours is what it asked for. It didn't ask for the CCA, the cold cranking amps, but the 90 amp hours is what it asked for, so I made sure I had that right. And it's a normal lead acid that I put in there. It's a bit of reading there.
for you to take slow time. So it says an important point here, you must leave the vehicle standing for at least 3 hours with this new battery. So it needs to understand that it's got a new battery and take some sort of reference point from that. So actually registering the battery, this is the important bit. Right, display history. As you can see, this is a completely new battery. I've never had anything, and we'll write something in there. So register battery exchange. Current registered battery capacity 80 amp hours. Now I think if you've got an AGM battery, it will actually say that after that. This is where I got a little bit confused, thinking, was this an AGM or not? It's been talking a lot about AGMs, but anyway. So I said enter at the same capacity. So you've got an option there to enter battery exchange, change from normal lead acid to an AGM battery. But anyway, I just put battery same type. It's not a BMW part. If you've got a BMW one, well done, but I didn't. I think I paid about £60 for my battery. BMW one would have been a lot more. So there you go. It's entered in the exchange. 100.
That's the battery now in the car. The work's all complete, the job's done. But as I mentioned back in the video when I was going through the instructions, you need to leave the car for 3 hours to settle in so that it can understand that it's got the new battery in place and it can sort of adjust to whatever that battery is kicking out. So that's a really important thing that you do, leave it for 3 hours. The other thing I'd like to mention is whilst you've been running the car with the old battery, and you might have experienced the problem that the car's lost its aux-in function on the stereo. That's actually quite common. It can happen. Normally it happens when you go to start the car and it's cold and it's really struggling to start, or when it fails to start, it will suddenly, one of the ECUs will just, the stereo will just drop out that that function of aux-in. So you need to basically go and see another video that I've done. I'll leave a link down below, and I'll put a link somewhere up on this video to actually go in to talk to the stereo ECU and tell it that it's actually got that aux-in function. It sounds absolutely bonkers, I know, but it is actually one of the things that can happen. And actually nowadays, who listens to CDs? Who really listens to the radio on FM? I mean, that's going to be off the airwaves soon anyway. So you need that aux-in function to work on your car if you want to keep these old bangers going. Okay, so thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope good luck with changing your own battery. I hope it works out for you. Remember to do the coding. That's a really important part. Yeah, and good luck to it. Good luck to you.
If that video was useful to you, then please do subscribe to my channel. It does help a lot and lets me get lots of feedback from you all.